Let's bring in famed hedge fund manager Mike Novogratz. He is the founder and CEO of Galaxy Digital. He's clean-shaven today, by the way, for those of you listening on the radio. Mike, it's always great to see you.
Great seeing you.
In terms of gold, what's your thesis here? New highs driven by what?
Listen, just the macro setup is so perfect for something like gold. The Fed Reserve and central banks around the world just keep printing money. More money, more money, more money. And so gold's going to take out the old highs, 1950 or something, and it's going to keep going. I think we're just starting this move. Is
this any sort of a hedge, or is this independent of your thesis on the markets?
You know, listen, I think we're in the irrational exuberant zone on the markets, but it's hard to figure out where that stops. So you look at a stock like Tesla or any of the story stocks, they're beyond what would normally be seen as a huge move, and you can't use a discounted cash flow model to come back to anything rational. That's because there's so much liquidity, and their store of value is just like gold's store of values. And so you don't know where it ends. A good friend of mine said, hey, get on the airplane, just make sure you're on the seat closest to the exit. We're in a bubble. I think you could see stocks and gold decouple at one point, right, where we've got an election coming up. I think Biden's going to win by a landslide, and I think he's going to jack up capital gains taxes to ordinary income. I think he's going to announce that this week, quite frankly. That will be good for the stock market. But they're going to continue to pump in liquidity. And so gold, I also love Bitcoin for the same reason, core holdings of mine that I think we're early in this cycle.
Mike, it's Karen. Thanks for being on the show. So you mentioned Bitcoin and gold. There's a lot of overlapping elements to the thesis. Inflation, fiat currency kind of run amok. Which of the two do you think will do better if we start to see inflation really kind of kick into, it's not in high gear, in any gear?
Listen, it's a little unfair to compare them because Bitcoin's a 50, 60 vol asset and gold's, 1/5 of that. And so I think Bitcoin will outperform gold because we're early in the adoption cycle, right? Bitcoin's still hard to buy, right? If it was easy to buy, it would be a lot higher. And there's more and more people working on making it easier to buy. Funds being set up, custody being done. At one point, we'll get an ETF. And so my sense is Bitcoin way outperforms it, but I would tell people to have a lot less Bitcoin than they do gold just because of the volatility.
Hey, Mike, it's Tim. You've seen multiple commodity cycles, or at least the last couple, which are probably now 10 to 20 years back. Gold-silver ratio looks interesting to buy silver, too. But other commodities here, some of the same setup works for copper and possibly even for oil. What do you think?
Listen, I think oil's its own story. I think there'll be supply constraints. We took so much supply off that if the economy comes back, if COVID doesn't crush us, you could see oil spike back to the high 50s and maybe even $60. But it's a bit of a different thesis. And so I think simplest to play gold, silver, Bitcoin in this monetization thesis. Copper is going to still be tied more to the real economy, and the real economy's got issues. Certainly in the U.S., we're stumbling through this COVID. I was in Las Vegas a few weeks ago, and already the numbers are down from a few weeks ago because of the COVID resurgence. So we're having a hard time getting a lot of our economy restarted. You can't travel abroad if you're an American. I was going to go to Greece. They said, no, you can't come. And so I just don't see, we're in a Goldilocks or a fairy tale world because the Fed is just giving in so much money. Disposable income is up on the year, not down, which makes no sense intuitively. And so it's hard to say where markets end, but you don't really want to bet on things that are geared to the real economy. Hence, bank stocks getting crushed.
Right. You're a realist, Mike, and in the past you said you trade the S&P 500 range. I'm wondering if that range has changed at all. And you also mentioned some of these momentum story stocks like Tesla. I mean, this is the market we have. Have you been in any of these trades, recognizing that momentum is carrying these stocks beyond what their fundamental state might be?
A little bit. I mean, listen, I didn't make nearly as much money as someone who would have went all in and went bullish on the thesis. I fought it for a while, then quit fighting. And listen, I have a ton of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is part of that story, though it hasn't done as well. And I have a bunch of gold. Stock-wise, I haven't done as well. And in fact, I, courageously tried to short Tesla, yesterday and today, and we'll see. Just it felt like 37% in 3 days was too much. And so I'm still picking some spots to be short, very short term on that stuff. I haven't played the big momentum, and so my friends are getting richer than I am.
All right, Mike, there's still time. Let us know how you're doing. Thanks.